So today I'm going to be spending some time in the reptile room, trimming and cleaning up the plants in the vivariums. And when you have plants, especially in tropical vivariums that get good light and are misted daily, they can grow quickly and they can quickly become overgrown. And overgrown plants in vivariums can cause all kinds of problems. They can block out light to other plants and places in the vivarium that also need light. They can overtake more slower growing plants, and they can block out the UVB light that you provide for your reptiles. So I thought it would be a good idea to take you along with me and talk about how and why I do that, and give you some tips and tricks about how to keep your vivarium plants healthy and alive. So I'm going to start with the vivarium for my green tree frogs. And I did a major trimming back on this vivarium about 3 or 4 months ago. And at that time, when I trimmed up the plants, I took the frogs out of the enclosure. And I have to be really careful because these frogs really like to jump out if they get startled or they see an opportunity. But I really don't feel like doing that today, so I'm just going to be very careful and hope that they stay in their place. This vivarium is mostly Hoyas and ZZ plants, and there's a few bromeliads. This bromeliad in the top corner, the mother put out a pup, and now the mother has died back, and that pup has grown all the way across the front on the top. And it's really getting in the way of viewing the inside of the vivarium, and it gets in the way when I try to mist the vivarium. So I think I'm just going to take the whole thing out. And before I do that, there's a section of this Hoya right here that is just stems with air roots, and it's getting in the way of the door here. So I'm going to need to get that out. There's also a big section of a ZZ plant that completely broke off and fell down back here, and I'm going to need to get that out. So hopefully the frogs are going to cooperate and not give me any problems. This Hoya vine is an epiphytic vine that will grow along the background. And the roots usually do a good job of holding on to the background, but sometimes I need to give it a little help. And in this case, I just took a piece of a paper clip and broke it off, and I'm going to stick that into the background to hold this on. And I'll give it a quick spraying down. And that just looks so much better. And I noticed that a section of the philodendron in my tomato frog's vivarium is taking over the water bowl, and it's not going to hurt the plant, but I want Scarlet to have full access to his water bowl. So I'm just going to give that a little trim. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of trimming on the parlor palm that's in my Anolis vivarium. And this parlor palm grows really fast, and the fronds quickly just become too big and tall for this vivarium. And they start blocking out the light. And Anolis are extremely diurnal lizards, and they really like bright light. And I'm trying to keep this moss alive as well. And I think that's much better. Sometimes it seems like a drastic thing to just clip off large parts of a plant, but the plants actually appreciate it, and they grow new growth to take the place of the old growth that you cut off, and it's actually beneficial for them. And sometimes the trimming is needed not because a plant is overgrown, but to remove dead or dying parts of a plant. And anytime you have a stem or leaf that's dead or dying, it's best for the health of the plant to remove just that part of the plant so that the plant can put all of its energy into growing the healthy parts and not putting that energy into the sickly part of the plant. And you can see that in these rabbit's foot ferns in my bullfrog's paludarium. There are lots of healthy new fronds that are always coming up, and as that happens, some of the old fronds will die back. So I just clip those out to make way for the healthy new growth. And all of the moss in here has died, and I think that's partly due to needing more light, but even more so from being trampled by this very heavy frog. And right now it's winter and it's really freezing cold outside, but as soon as spring rolls around, I'll be making a trip to the woods to gather more moss, and I'll be replenishing the moss in all of the vivariums then. Now I'm here at the vivarium for my tiger-legged monkey tree frogs. And that's not because it needs trimmed, but to point out that sometimes plants growing thick can be a good thing because some species need to have a lot of cover and foliage to hide in and feel safe and secure. These frogs are very nocturnal and only come out for a few hours in the middle of the night. And the rest of the time, they have tons of places to hide and feel safe. And while I'm at this vivarium, it's probably a good time to talk about lights and substrate, because bright lights and proper substrate are two of the most important parts of keeping vivarium plants healthy and alive. In this vivarium, I use very bright full spectrum lights that make the plants grow like crazy. And the substrate is made to contain the nutrition plants need as well as drain well and resist compaction. A good ABG mix with a handful of organic compost thrown in will do that well. And I have a previous video on how I make my substrate, so if you need that, I'll put a link to that video in the corner. So really, keeping plants in your vivariums healthy and alive is not that difficult, as long as you use bright full spectrum lights and use good substrate. Just keep an eye on them and trim them back when they get too overgrown, or cut away any dead or dying parts, and that's all there is to it. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.